Hello, and welcome to our new construction slash builder series. I am Danielle Palloschi-Browne, an agent and an investor, and I am here with my co-host Raj Tamang, who is an engineer and custom home builder with Green Valley Custom Homes, and we are here to talk to you about today. This is episode 12, I believe. So we are on episode 12, and we're talking about exterior wood, exterior coverings of all different types. We're going to start with what's under the exterior coverings, and we're going to talk about different types of exteriors that you can have on your home, and a little bit about like what's bringing value and what options you might have. What are the most cost effective? Okay, and this is going to be our last episode for the year because we are not going to be here for the next 2 weeks because of the holidays. So the next time we are here after this is just after the first of the year. So we'll see you guys then to talk about some really fun stuff. The exterior design elements, what's really worth it, what are customers and buyers looking for. So I'm really excited about that for our first episode of the year. But back to the topic at hand today, exteriors. All right, so where do we start? What happens when you're like selecting an exterior? What do you do? Or what options should you first consider?
Yeah, so when we say exterior covering, I think 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we talked about roof. Right, I think today we talk about wall coverings.
Yes.
Which is mostly siding or veneers, and type of things. So usually when you say exterior covering, those are the things you see like sidings or veneers. It could be stone veneer, brick veneer. Even the siding, you have vinyl siding, you have a stone, you have a hardie siding, which is cement board. It has pros and cons, and also it comes with a cost, right? Those are the things you have to keep in mind. The starting point is once you have the exterior wall built and you have exterior seating OSB, you have to put a Tyvek. Usually we do Tyvek. We call it Tyvek. Tyvek is just a proprietary product name, but there are different companies, they have their own name, but usually Tyvek house wrap.
So it's like a plastic, almost tarp, kind of
almost
waterproofing, right? Is that what it's for, or what else does it do?
Exactly, it's almost like a tar paper, but it's less, plastic, very durable. So it's almost like waterproofing.
Yeah,
right.
And it's not like a thin plastic; it's thick, kind of like a tarp you'd put on. Something that really can hold up to some like abuse if needed.
Correct. So it's not really a thick, but it's a thin, but built in such a way that it's very abrasive, resistant, like you said, because once you install that, house wrap, Tyvek wrap, then the siding goes. So you have to make sure that install all those, house wrap properly, especially at the joints. Usually how we do is it comes in roll, a big like 20 feet or 10-foot roll. You have to apply on the outside surface of the exterior wall. Then at the lap, you have to overlap and you have to nail it, or they use a staple.
Yeah.
But at the joint, it's very important you use some kind of tape. Exterior use a tape, so there is no leak.
Because there's no holes. Then.
Exactly.
You wouldn't nail it because that's not exactly keeping it waterproof.
Yeah, those smaller nails, I don't think they worry about much, but exactly whatever you nail with the staples, you leave it, because water. You're not talking about water, whole water pouring into it, because you, like I say, you have exterior siding anyway. The likelihood of water going through the siding into the paper is a very minimum. If it is, it's so that's why you don't really have to worry about those smaller holes due to staples and nails. Yeah. But that you have to make sure you properly install them flat and stressed. Especially tricky part is where the doors or window openings are. You have to make sure at the joint around the corners of the doors and window opening, you have to put tips. There are different type of tips you can buy it, exterior use. you can talk to your vendor; they'll provide it. That has to be approved in good quality, right? I think it's worth it.
Mhm.
Those are the things you keep in mind. Installing the paper, then next step is going to the siding, right?
Yeah. Well, and what products or what exterior products specifically would you need to use Tyvek paper for? So, like, if you're going to put on siding, vinyl, aluminum, like whatever siding on the side of the house, that seems pretty logical. But what if you had a brick exterior? Do you need Tyvek paper too, or no?
You still do. You still do. Okay, so that's a good question because when we say siding, usually you have vinyl siding, which is most economical.
Yeah.
And then another one is hardie siding, or even you can have wood panels, wood sacks. Those things, there are different products available out there. But vinyl, the difference between vinyl and cement board, of course, vinyl is cheaper. But the problem with vinyl is after, I don't know, 10, 15 years, you have to replace because you cannot paint the vinyl
Mm,
siding. Even in the older houses, you can see some kind of aluminum siding, metal siding,
yeah.
but that's not. These days, we don't use that metal anymore. I have not seen it in new construction.
No,
Um,
I can't remember the last time I saw it.
Correct. It's
I think I
mostly
actually
on.
saw it on a refurbished home from the 60s
Yeah.
that had like and the whole point of the house was like it was made of this aluminum. So I think that is the very, very specific exception to
Yeah.
what I've seen. Really, I
It could
guess a
be
little
costly too,
further.
to be honest with you. I mean, it's metal versus vinyl. You can see
Yeah.
most likely costly, and you can see wood panel old construction. You can see wood panels, right? They installed. But nowadays with the vinyl, it comes with a very durable, cost-effective, different colors. Like I said, only difference is down the road you have to replace because you cannot really paint it. And of course, over time, because this is for exterior use, there would be discoloration
Got it.
of the siding. So after 5, 10 years, your siding color start turning into different color, right? Lighter color.
Like fading a bit and just kind of dinged. It can get dinged up.
Yeah, so especially vinyl, exactly, because it's just thin, flimsy. If you don't install properly, if it is, especially in high wind area, you will see even, some part of the siding is like wobbling.
Yep.
It's installation issue. That's why, I mean, again, it depends the price of the house, the neighborhood of the house you built. Most of the new construction we do in the high-end area, we don't even do siding, vinyl siding anymore. We do hardie board, which is cement board, which is more durable. It has better insulation capacity, and also you can paint.
Yes. And it has a significant difference when you touch it too.
Yeah.
Like hardie board feels hardie. Like it feels like almost like a wood. Like it really does feel like, at least to me, like if you were to run your hand on it, you'd be like, oh, this is painted wood. Like really nicely painted wood. Whereas vinyl, there's a flexibility toward it, right? Like if you were to like lean on it, you can tell there's just a different quality to these two products and durability. Like it's very easy to tell. But hardie board, it feels like actual wood, and it has it's much thicker, like much thicker. Like
definitely much thicker. And also, like this is cement board, and the exterior it comes with a different texture. You can find a very smooth texture, or it can be with this grain outside. So those are the very popular two different type of finishes you see with the different colors. But one of the product, like say James Hardie, is one of the number one Hardie board. But there are other products, cement board, you can find a little bit cheaper. But for us, we always use it because with the name and brand and and a warranty it comes with it is worth it. Right. So
absolutely.
So Hardie board is one way to do it. But no, you can do a stucco now. Like if you want to do like plain finish, you can even do a stucco finish, right? Which is
so what is stucco like really made of?
Cement.
It's kind of cement, right?
Correct. It's like mixed cement, but it's like a plaster. So when you see the wall, it looks like a concrete wall.
Yep.
But thin ½ inch or quarter, 3/4 inch of thick cement plaster you applied on the wall.
Yep. With
The
the intention
installation,
of being textured.
it
It's to
has,
give it a textured finish.
yeah. So you have to apply on the wall. So you have to remember the installation procedure is there's certain procedure you have to follow. But the basic rule is when you have a stucco, and there is another one on EFS, which is a little bit different. It gives you also insulation's value. Installation procedure is a little different. But in general, the stucco, it can be, you just do a stucco finish plaster and you can paint it, whatever color you want, right?
Yep.
So the installation, you still have to have a Tyvek house wrap. Then,
even behind stucco.
Yeah, you still need it. Then you put a wire mesh, because you're gonna plaster on the wall. If you plaster on the house wrap, it's not gonna stick to it, right? It's a plastic.
Yep. So you put like it looks kind of like chicken wire.
yeah. It's like a wire mesh, very thin wire mesh to apply on it. You nail it, right? Then you just put the, stucco concrete mix into it. So that from outside looks like concrete building, nicely finished, and you can paint it, which is definitely more expensive. So cost-wise, hardie board is definitely almost 1.5, maybe almost 2 times more expensive than vinyl. Then when you go to stucco, definitely almost double the cost, maybe even more than the hardie board. Cost of the stucco, yeah.
I was trying to think of like where I've even seen stucco kind of recently. And I think the only times I really see stucco, like in new construction homes, I'm seeing it on like sometimes water tables, which for anyone who's not familiar where that is, it's kind of like if you have a slab or a basement, it's the part that comes out of the ground before the siding and the other things start. So I've seen it there. I'm trying to think of other places, but where else are you seeing it?
No, Danielle, this is getting actually popular because I built last 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember one of the houses we met in the Falls.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a stucco. It's completely 100% stucco, all 4 sides.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a finish texture. Some people like it.
White? The whole house was white, though. I thought it had side.
Yeah, painted white. Yeah, but it's stucco painted white from outside, right?
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. I thought it was. I guess I didn't look at it close enough. I thought it was hardie board.
Yeah, so all that, and now is in McLean, you have high-end homes, modern homes, all is stucco because it looks like a very plain and very clean finish.
Modern.
I have several projects going on, and several projects, at least on the front, I'm doing stucco because it's going to give you very clean, nice finish. And all 3 sides to save cost, I'm doing hardie siding and painted. But the front, I'm doing mixture of stone, thin stone.
Yeah.
And stucco, so it looks like nice modern.
Huh. Well, that is very cool. Like, would you be able to stucco directly on top of brick? So say you had a brick home and you're like, I want this to not look like it has the texture of brick anymore. Could you stucco right on top of the brick?
Yeah, you can. You can. It's just like a plaster, cement plaster. So you have a brick, you just apply a plaster on the top of the brick. But this is the deal. You have to remember, the brick usually is a brick veneer. Mm-hmm. So brick veneer is not a structural element. That means the veneer is you apply from the outside like a siding.
Yes.
So when you have a brick or a stone, there's 2 types of veneer. Either you have a real brick, like you see in new construction. Nowadays, you can find cultural or fake brick. But from outside, it's the same. It's the same brick, very thin, But if you go look at it, you can't really see the difference. It's the same brick, but it's thin. So the application is different. When you have a thin veneer, you apply like stucco. You apply on the wall with the concrete mix. Yeah. And you stick to the wall. But if you have a real brick, like 4-inch brick veneer in stone, you don't directly apply to the wall. You have to actually leave a gap, like a 1/2 inch gap.
Oh.
Yeah, with the brick and the brick veneer, it attached to the wall. It's called a brick ties. It is 24 inches one center, 16 inches one center. It has a brick ties attached to the wall behind.
Got it. So you basically will put up like the chicken wire mesh against the brick, mount it every 16 or 24 inches, and then put the stucco on top of that. Or no,
Yeah, so if you
there's
want to
another
put
barrier.
this is
The
the deal.
stucco doesn't touch the brick.
Yeah, but this is the deal. So if you already have a brick veneer installed,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. If the brick is structural brick, it's a part of the bearing wall, you can do stucco. But if it is a brick veneer, means brick veneer is outside feature. You can take it out anytime, and it really doesn't affect it, right?
Yeah,
Because
you can
that's
take it
why
out
you
just
have
like a
gap.
vinyl siding piece. You could just take it out.
Exactly. You
It won't
just take it
matter.
out.
Got it.
That's what I think. There's a gap between your brick veneer and the house, so you can take the brick veneer out, and also with the brick veneer, real brick veneer. When it's raining, some water there will be weep holes. Weep holes.
Weep holes.
Actually, water can go behind it,
Got it.
and
Okay.
from there. And if you have a brick house at the bottom, you will see weep house. So all the water goes behind. It's gonna come down. Because you have to remember the brick is the clay. It's going to absorb moisture or water, rain.
Yep.
And you don't put anything behind, so you still have that house wrap, and you leave a gap, so all the water will flow down, and from the bottom weep holes is going to come out. And you have to have a flashing at the bottom.
Yep.
So
so then I guess we've talked about flashing in the past, right? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with the roof. But now flashing is not exclusive to a roof, and we may have even talked about it way earlier than this, probably when we were talking about waterproofing in basements. But let's talk a little bit about where flashing would be involved in any of these other products. So hardie plank, stucco, brick. I guess if you're putting a veneer of brick on, where would you expect to put a lot of flashing? Like just in the anywhere where like things are meeting, like windows to walls and doors and stuff like that, or is it also additional places?
Yeah, other places too. So the flashing in the doors and window, usually when you have a siding and you have a doors and window header, you put this flashing, so that if water goes from above the window or door, it comes down, it does not penetrate into the window. So there would be flashing always installed on top of the doors and windows. So water is, it's just going outside. And one of the very important place that you need to do flashing, if you have a deck, okay? Because especially in our area, there would be snow. In the winter time in the snow, and you come from New York, which is even worse. Here is, you can expect 1 foot, 2 foot of snow built out on the deck, on the back. So at the interface of house, and you have a deck, at that corner, I would put at least 1 foot or 2 foot tall flashing on the wall. What that means is, if you don't have a flashing and you have this 1 foot of the snow accumulated through the length of the wall, it just into the deck. So what happened, when the snow melts, the water is going inside the deck, inside the siding. You don't want that to happen. So always make sure at least 1 or 2 feet above go. And also, if it is a regular deck with the holes on it, maybe you will not see that much, but sometimes you have this nowadays, you have a patio, or you have a deck, waterproof deck, where people can actually sit below it with the patio and deck. You can expect the snow built out in the winter time. So those places you have to do a flashing. Make sure at least 1 foot, 2 feet, at least 2 foot, I would say, from the surface of the deck up to the wall.
Got it. Okay.
And again, when you have a brick veneer at the bottom, because when you have a brick, you have to remember the actual brick. I'm talking about 2 types of brick. One is a thin brick or thin stone, which is called cultural stone. It's the application you apply to the wall directly with the plaster and mesh. Whereas the actual brick and the actual stone, you leave a gap, right?
Yeah.
When you have actually brick and stone, you have to provide a concrete ledge at the bottom, so that when you have a concrete wall, then you have to have at least like 4-inch concrete ledge where this actual brick veneer is sitting on. at the bottom, because that's how it is supported. That brick veneer, actual brick veneer, is supported on the legs. Whereas a thin brick or thin stone is not supported at the bottom. It's attached to the wall like a siding.
Got it. So like if it's actually structural, you almost have like 4 feet, I think you were saying, in front of it. It's like a little mini foundation for the siding.
For it to sit on. It's like a seat, right? You know, it has a seat on it on a concrete wall. So you have to, if it is a concrete wall, it's 8-inch concrete wall, then you project about 4-inch less, like a seat, where the brick veneer will come down and sit on it.
Got it. Okay.
Right? Because remember, because it's not attached on the back. It's only attached to the back using a tie. Just ties to make sure it does not fall down, but it's not supported on the back, you know?
It's really, truly a facade. Like
truly a facade.
It's there, but it's not like, it's not structural really of any way.
It's not a structure. Veneer means it's not a structure. But if you see old construction, 20, 30, 40 years old, you see brick, and also you have a masonry, like, you know, cement blocks. They are mixed together. They're like, you know, connected in the white, interlocking. So it looks like a brick veneer, but actually it's a structural brick. It's supporting the house framing, you know? So that's why you have to be careful. Sometimes you have to go look at the old houses. Then first of all, you have to find out it is a structural brick or it's just a brick veneer. And there is a very clear way to distinguish. I don't know how to say it because we don't have visual, but when I go look at it in a minute, I can exactly tell you it's load bearing, well, it's a structural brick or non-structural brick. This is the way how they install it. Maybe I can show it next time, but when I go, but
I'd be very curious.
Yeah,
see, like, how do you figure that out?
Maybe so I can post a photo on the comments below. The difference between structural brick versus non-structural brick, the pattern of how they lay out.
Oh.
Because remember, the structural brick, you have to be, you know, tied to the wall behind, which is, it could be brick wall or it could be block, like 4-inch block or 6-inch block behind. So so in the past, you have this masonry wall. Instead of putting all brick, the problem with all brick is all solid. It doesn't have a void. And you can't put a vertical rebar. When you don't put a vertical rebar, it doesn't have a really lateral, you know, stability. You know, you just it's very brutal. So, but for aesthetics, they put a brick outside, but inside they have cinder blocks. So they are tied together in a way that there is no gap in between. There is no gap between the cinder blocks and the brick, and that's the structural brick.
Okay, so probably a lot of the brick that you see in Northern Virginia, I would then guess is probably veneer.
New construction, pretty much 100%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, new because we don't even do structural brick anymore. But let's say 30, 40, 50 years ago, you get these houses you see in Arlington, DC, Alexandria, all those like 1-story Cape Cod type of structure, and you see all brick, pretty much 100% all of it, right? This type of house in our neighborhood,
absolutely.
Those are all structural brick.
I would be very curious. I think I'm going to follow up with you today, and I'm going to show you. So the front of my house it's brick, but there's I also have siding, so it's a combination of these two things. I don't know. Based on what you just said, like, I feel like it's probably a veneer because I don't think there's concrete walls, but I could be totally wrong. This is why I ask you these questions every week. Because
how old is the house?
Do you know? No other people would not know either.
How old is your house?
Something down.
How old is the house? Can I ask?
Yeah, absolutely. It was built in 1968.
That's not bad. So most likely, yes. Okay.
And it had a major extension. They doubled the size of the house, but it's still all one level.
Okay, so that's like new extension most likely is not, but existing is most likely yes. Now, a lot of projects now, I'm working with some of the clients now, is that they are doing all the renovation. They are doing pop-top. They are doing extensions. And especially in Arlington, Alexandria, DC area, I would say 99% 99.9 is like a structural brick veneer, a structural brick with a CMU behind. And you probably
Okay.
see if you go inside in the house and on the wall inside, you tap in. What they do for the sheet rock or cement board, gypsum board, you need to put some kind of you need to put like a 1x4, like 2x2, maybe like even 1x1, 1x2. I have seen it like a sleepers. They nail it to the wall just for the purpose of hanging the drywall. And the problem is those houses, you don't even really have insulation because that brick and cinder block really doesn't give you that. Yeah, maybe it gives like, I don't know, 6 or 7, but it does not really give you that much of insulation value.
Not really. Yeah,
It's
I would
not.
have to say it's probably not the best.
Nah. So when
And
we
you
do a
can tell,
renovation
like, those are
project,
homes that never quite get warm. Those are homes that you often have really terrible Wi-Fi in. Like, I've gotten a lot of comments about stuff like that. Maybe that seems dumb, but it's like a lot of extra concrete around.
too much a solid wall, exactly. All pretty
Yeah.
much solid wall, exterior wall, including all the upstairs. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that may happen.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. It is so true. And like this, we talked about this weeks ago, but I'm going to say a quick comment so we don't like totally get off track. The insulation, how much code has changed around insulation in the last 30 years, and how homes were built in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, and now even since like the 90s, even how much insulation is now required versus what homes back then were required to have is just, it's kind of astounding how much it's changed.
Yeah,
How much it's improved, really.
it does. That's what I say, that the code and some of the things they are doing is we call it wind bracing design. If you go like 20 years ago, there was not even a concept of wind bracing. So in the design code, I'll give you, this is the design code, I'll show you. So this is one of the design code, right? So this is called the IBC, but this is IBC design code for commercial buildings. But it's 2015. So then IRC is for the building, residential building construction. So it's a different. So since I do structural design for residential commercial, so we have a both design code. So if you give me the example of wall bracing design 15 years ago on residential construction, there was a provision of one sentence, okay? Just one sentence. Right now, they have a 25-page for wall bracing requirements. It's just evolving process from the experience, all the data they collect through the years. That's why if you look at any house, in DC or Arlington, those are built like 30, 40 years ago. Now, if you try to comply with the current code, none of that will comply. No. That's not happy,
and that's one of the challenges. Yeah. If you think, I'm just going to add, I'm just going to bump it out in the back. I just want to add one room off the side of the back. Like that could get very complicated depending on the specifics and what you want to do. And by changing one thing, does it affect another thing that then you would have to add onto your project? And it could really spiral out of control. So it's best to find out details before you knock a wall down or take a staircase down or things like that. Yeah, but we digressed. We totally digressed.
That's one of the challenging, to be honest with Danielle. You brought a very good point, but when you do renovation of the old house, then you have to get a permit from the county or city. Then you have to comply with the new code. You do. Then you have to make sure. Those are the challenging parts sometimes. For example, the stairs. I have seen these steps going from the first floor to the basement is so steep. I can actually, I'm scared. And sometimes the headroom is so low. Now,
I have ducked into many a basement.
Especially for you, right? Someone like you.
And I'm walking sideways and I'm ducking. I can imagine. No, I'm 6 feet tall. I use that as a gauge in any basement of like an older home. I'm like, okay, I'm 6 foot exactly. How much taller does it feel from my head that the ceiling is? Is this like a 7.5 feeter? Is this like a 6.5 footer? And that's kind of how I gauge, like, could this be a usable basement?
So that's the challenging part. Nowadays, the minimum headroom you have to have is 6'8". You have to have it for a livable, habitable space.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing is steps too. Is your steps, your risers, the maximum for residential construction has to be maximum is 8.25, 8.25 inch. It can be higher than 8.25. But you'll see some of the old houses like 10 inch, a lot, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
those are the challenges you face when you do renovations, bigger renovations, addition on the house, and you have to get a permit through the county. And sometimes it's ADA compliance, especially ADA compliance is very tricky.
Yes.
It depends what type of project, especially commercial projects. Residential project is not that stringent about ADA unless you have a old parents living and you wanted to have your old parents live with you. And if you want an approval from the county for that, then there is specific guidelines you have to follow, which is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But
And
even
for anyone
bathrooms,
that's not sure what ADA means, it's Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yep.
It has to do with making sure that, say, doorways are wide enough and there are ramps, or in bathrooms, I know there's a lot of code, like certain sinks that a wheelchair can get under, and showers that you can either wheel into, and and also handlebars and things like that can be available within the home. In commercial spaces, a lot of those things are required. Now, residential,
that's required, exactly. Yeah. It depends
but in
what type of business
residential,
you
it's
are.
not
Like
necessary unless you want it to be.
So it depends also, because I have my office on the second floor. It's only stairs. There is no elevator. Means I don't have to comply, because to come to the second floor, how they gonna come, right? First of all.
Yes.
But if my space has an elevator, which is ADA compliant elevator, then I have to make sure that my office space is ADA compliant.
Yes.
One of the things about ADA compliant is wheelchair. That's it, wheelchair, right? So someone with a wheelchair able to use any of that, like sink and bathrooms and toilets and shower. Usually, one thing I'll give you the example of ADA compliant shower is that usually in your house, when you have a shower, you have a 4-inch curve at the edge.
Yeah.
When you're taking shower, the water doesn't come out. The ADA, you can't have a curve. So instead of having curve, you have to have a depressed floor. You have to make the shower below from the floor. Your wheelchair can go through it and come out. So, for example, I build my house, but all of them shower, I make ADA, because I know it's easy to clean, because you clean it, all the water you could just dump it into the shower area, versus if you have a curve, then you can't really do that.
Yeah, no, it's so true. So if that is something that you're designing for, so say you're designing a new construction home, or you're doing an extension, or adding an ADU, so an auxiliary dwelling unit above like a garage, or like a little tiny house in your backyard, whatever, you may want to look into ADA compliant code for what you're looking to design, because it could really be beneficial for your long-term use. You may end up designing something that may not be as beneficial to those that are going to be living there as you may think. So definitely ask a designer on that. They're going to be familiar, and talk with your contractor about that specifically. So even if you're flipping a property, or say you're designing one for, to have like an in-law suite, these are all things you want to keep in mind in your design, and they can be very attractive looking, but it's more expensive for someone to have to do it later. So if you actually include things that are like attractive ways of being ADA compliant, or at least thoughtful for those that may have challenges or have safety concerns in bathrooms in particular, I think is probably one of the biggest ones. It really could be beneficial to your overall design, and probably appeal to a lot of people that are home buyers and searching for properties, if it's not a design for a specific client.
Yeah. Nowadays, with new constructions, a lot of modern design is coming. So many different options available out there. And I wanted to say one thing. I found this product. I'm designing this house for a client, where all this is stone veneer outside. So what we talk about, the traditional installation stone veneer, is you have a vapor barrier or plastic, right? A house wrap. Then you install this wire mesh. Then you do plaster, and you apply the veneer, right? Now you have the stone veneer you can actually attach using the staple. Like
really?
a staple.
Like staples? Like a staple
With
gun?
a staple. So you have a paper Then they
What
put
is it made
a
of?
paper to make sure it's thick. Then the stone veneer comes in pieces, and you staple into it. But I don't think it's actually stone. But I don't think you can staple to. So I have to look at this product. I design it and looks the same as a stone, but I have requested sample. I'll be curious how this looks like.
I'm very curious about that. Like, do you think it's kind of how, backsplash tile was, or just tile in general was ended up like little tile got designed where it's on like a mesh net, if you will. You know what I mean? Like at one point, every little tiny tile had to be installed individual. Now things come on like a mesh sheet if you have little tiles. I wonder if this is some kind of a similar like product. I'm hoping. Otherwise, I don't know how you would staple rock.
I'm going to post a link right now. The stone company I've been talking with, they actually have a Facebook link. And I'm going to... things you want to keep in mind in your design. Yeah, man. I left it. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm going to click and put the link there. So this, just check it out. Just posted the link there. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
Evolve Stone.
Well, let us know what your guys' thoughts are on this because I am very intrigued. If I can staple stone to a water table, and if there's some like maybe you grout over it or something, I'm always interested in finding really cool, cost-effective, sustainable when possible, and beautiful products and things that maybe can hold up a little better. Like the truth is regular or typical stone, there is a lot of maintenance with that. And it can also, it needs to be cleaned pretty regularly and things like that. So leave your comments.
Like I said, I just posted a link. Check it out. It'll be cool. But I'm interested in doing a little bit more explorer on this. And I have actually requested a sample booklet from them and with the samples. So,
well, we'll talk about that once that comes in. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Raj, is there anything else we should tackle on this topic that you think is really important? But I think we went through our whole list and then some.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Raj, for letting me ask you very dumb questions every week. And thank you so much for this year so far. I'm really excited about what we've done with our builder and new construction series. And I know next year we're going to do even more. So for any of you that are interested in specific topics that Raj and I have not completed, our first topic in the year is really kind of finishing up the whole builder series where we're just talking about exterior design elements, so outdoor kitchens and things of that nature. But outside of that, then we've kind of built a whole house at this point. So if there's any topic that you want to talk about, please leave it in the comments. And Raj and I are happy to include that in our schedule starting early next year. But have a wonderful holiday season. Raj and I are traveling for the holidays. We're not going to see you until the first weekend in January. But thank you to everybody who's been watching, and we look forward to helping you some more next year.
Yeah, thank you so much again. And thank you for all the support, Danielle. I appreciate it. It's been a very nice, awesome journey. I'm really excited. We started this. I think we'll continue this for a long time, hopefully.
I completely agree. I've really enjoyed it.
I really like it. I think this is very, very informative, and hopefully we can continue this our experience and share with our community.
Yes, and we absolutely will.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Raj, and thanks everybody. Have a wonderful end of your year, and we'll see you next year.
Next year.